What if the time for change isn't someday, but exactly now? You've probably lived hundreds of days you don't even remember, days you wasted, days you slept through while fully awake. But August 5, 2025 is not going to be one of those days. This isn't about superstition or mystery. This is a wake-up call, and whether you believe in fate, God, timing, or none of them, you're being told to pay attention. Every date in your life seems ordinary until it isn't. You go through day after day thinking everything is predictable, manageable, and under your control. Then one day life taps you on the shoulder. Sometimes it taps gently, other times it hits like a storm. The truth is, you never really know which day will change your entire existence. That's why the idea of August 5, 2025 being not a normal day shouldn't be taken lightly. Whether or not you believe in divine timing, one thing is clear: some days are designed to break routines, shatter illusions, and wake us up from the trance of comfort. August 5 is not about magic, it's about momentum. It's about finally seeing the reality of your life, without filters, without excuses, and without the delay of "I'll deal with it tomorrow." Because for too long, people have waited to forgive. Waited to leave toxic environments, waited to chase dreams, waited to heal, waited to love, waited to change, and that waiting has cost more than they can ever calculate. But not this time. This time, something feels different. This time, a whisper inside says, get up, move, prepare, shift. And not because disaster is coming, but because your time is. Think about how you've lived. How many of your days have you wasted just surviving, instead of truly living? You've done what's expected. You followed rules, kept the peace, stayed silent, played small, but now something stirs. A quiet resistance against the script you've been handed. Maybe you don't want to wake up anymore and pretend to be someone you're not. Maybe you're done saying "I'm fine" when you're actually breaking inside. Maybe August 5 will be the day you finally allow yourself to be honest. There's a weight in your chest you've been carrying. Not just the weight of your struggles, but the burden of your silence. The things you never said, the things you regret not doing, the love you didn't give, the boundaries you didn't set. The pain you buried so deep you forgot it was even there. Until now, until a random date became a symbol. A symbol of a clean slate, a second chance, a resurrection. This isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. It's about unlearning the lies that made you settle for less, for numbness, for a hollow version of life. You weren't born to just pay bills and tolerate pain. You were born to rise, to evolve, to serve, to create. And sometimes it takes a moment like this, a whisper wrapped in a date, to remind you of that. So what will you do when August 5 arrives? Will you scroll past the moment like every other one? Will you ignore the signs, suppress the feelings, and sleepwalk through another 24 hours? Or will you stand still, breathe deep, and say, this is it. I don't need more signs. I don't need more time. I'm done waiting. You can decide right now to live as if that day holds a shift so powerful it demands the death of who you were and the birth of who you are meant to be. And you don't need permission to do it. You don't need the stars to align. You don't need anyone else to understand. All you need is the courage to act on the pull you already feel. If you've ever needed a reason to start over, to stop lying to yourself, to let go of people who drain you, to stop tolerating a job you hate, to finally write that book, move to that city, speak that truth, this is it. This is your moment. This is your invitation. Not because something magical will happen on the outside, but because something irreversible will awaken on the inside. And maybe, just maybe, the reason August 5, 2025 won't be a normal day is because you finally decided you won't be a normal person anymore. We live most of our lives waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect time to begin, to forgive, to let go, to speak up, to chase the dream, to say no, to say yes, to live fully. But here's the harsh truth. The perfect moment does not exist. Life isn't waiting for you to feel ready. It's happening right now, whether you act or not. And that's exactly why most people stay stuck. They keep telling themselves, not yet. I just need more clarity, more time, more confidence. But that thinking is the very trap that keeps them in the same cycles year after year. The second keynote is about this simple but life-altering truth. Nothing changes until you decide that enough is enough. Nothing shifts until you stop romanticizing the idea of change and actually do something uncomfortable. And that moment, when you're tired of your own excuses, is the most powerful place you can be, not because you've figured it all out, but because you've finally admitted you're done waiting. That realization is the beginning of transformation. Think about the times you felt stuck. It didn't feel like a massive crisis. It felt like slowly sinking, right? Like everything was just okay. Not good, not terrible, just numb. That numbness is dangerous. Because at least pain wakes you up. Numbness makes you tolerate a life that doesn't belong to you. It keeps you from leaving the relationship that's suffocating your spirit. It keeps you from starting the project you know could change your life. It keeps you quiet in rooms you are meant to speak in. So how do you break free from that state? You start by recognizing that no one is coming to save you. Not your family, not your boss, not your friends, not your therapist, not your idols. You are the only person who can step out of your old story. Everyone else can support you, encourage you, or even inspire you. But no one can take the step for you. And as painful as that truth might sound, it's also incredibly empowering. Because if no one else has the power, then you are completely free to act at any moment. You are not waiting on fate. You are choosing your path now. You've probably heard people say, "You'll know when it's time." But that's not always true. Most people don't know when it's time. They keep waiting for clarity to fall out of the sky, for circumstances to be just right, for fear to disappear, and it never happens. What really happens is they hit a breaking point. They look in the mirror one day and can no longer lie to themselves. They say, "I can't keep doing this." That's when things begin to change, not when everything feels easy, but when the pain of staying the same outweighs the fear of change. And that's what this moment represents, a breaking point. Not because the world is crumbling, but because your soul is tired of pretending everything's fine. This is where you start to rewire your mind. Not by reading 1,000 books or listening to endless advice, but by making a bold, uncomfortable decision that you'll no longer play small. You'll no longer water yourself down to fit into places that don't see your value. You'll no longer betray your own intuition just to keep others comfortable. This kind of decision doesn't feel magical in the beginning. It feels terrifying. It feels like loss, because choosing yourself often means letting go of what you thought was safe. But that fear, it's not a sign to stop, it's a sign you're finally stepping into something real, something alive, something worthy of your time and your soul. You are not too late. You are not too broken. You are not too anything. You are just in the waiting room of your own power, and this is your chance to walk out of it. The moment you stop waiting for permission, the moment you stop delaying your own healing, is the moment your life starts to shift. Not all at once, but undeniably, you'll feel the quiet strength build inside you. You'll notice your voice gets clearer, your decisions sharper, your boundaries stronger. So don't wait for life to knock louder. Don't wait for the pain to get worse. Don't wait for the world to fall apart before you start building yourself up. Decide now. Decide that your peace, your purpose, your truth is worth fighting for. Because it is, and because no one else can live it for you. The third keynote centers on a truth that most people try to avoid. Healing is not comfortable. Growth is not a feel. Good Instagram quote. Rebuilding yourself means facing everything you've been running from. It means confronting the thoughts you've buried, the fears you've normalized, and the pain you've avoided. But here's the deeper truth, the version of you that you admire, the one who's calm, unshakable, fulfilled, is not hiding in some distant future. That version of you is built in the chaos, forged in discomfort, shaped in the fire of real life. Most people want to change without being changed. They want peace without letting go of their chaos. They want clarity while still entertaining confusion. But life doesn't work like that. The mind doesn't reset itself on its own. You have to interrupt your patterns. You have to go through the discomfort. You have to look at yourself with ruthless honesty and say, "This is not who I'm going to be anymore." That single decision, spoken in silence when no one is watching, carries more power than any external advice you'll ever receive. Here's the challenge. Your mind doesn't want to change. It wants to repeat. It wants to protect you from pain, even if that pain is familiar. That's why you go back to the same habits, the same thoughts, the same emotions, even when they no longer serve you. Your nervous system is addicted to what feels predictable, even if it's destroying you. So when you start to shift, everything inside you resists. Doubt kicks in, fear grows louder, and the old identity clings to your back like a shadow. That's not weakness, that's wiring, but you're not a prisoner of your past. You're not doomed to live on autopilot. You are biologically capable of rewiring your mind, and that process begins with one thing: awareness. Awareness is the crack in the wall. The moment you pause and observe yourself. The moment you notice your reactions, your thoughts, your emotions without judgment. Because when you notice them, you're no longer controlled by them. You've created space, and in that space, change becomes possible. When you stop reacting and start observing, you gain a power most people never tap into. You begin to recognize that your thoughts are not facts, your emotions are not laws, your past is not your identity, and your future is not built from hope, it's built from habits. The thoughts you feed today become the life you live tomorrow. So if you want a new reality, you don't need a new location, or a new relationship, or a new job. You need a new mindset, and that starts by choosing new thought, even if they feel fake at first. There's a moment in every journey where it stops being about motivation and starts being about discipline. You stop asking, "Do I feel like it today?" and start saying, "I'm doing it anyway." That's where transformation lives, not in the hype, not in the emotion, but in the quiet, consistent choices no one claps for. The 10 minutes of meditation, the 5 a.m. wake up, the journal entries, the workouts, the boundaries, the moments where you say, "This is who I am now." Even when it still feels unfamiliar, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, you begin to change. Your mind becomes quieter, your choices become intentional, you stop trying to be liked and start being respected, especially by yourself. That's real confidence, not loud, not arrogant, just a deep inner knowing that you are aligned with your truth. That you're no longer a slave to your own patterns, that you have stepped out of your old story and begun writing a new one. You don't have to prove your worth. You don't have to wait for the world to approve your healing. You don't have to be perfect to be powerful. You just have to be willing to face the discomfort, willing to challenge your thoughts, willing to rise even when it would be easier to stay down. That willingness, that's your gateway to the life you're searching for. You're not broken, you're becoming, you're not lost, you're shedding what no longer fits, and in that process, there will be pain. But there will also be peace, a kind of peace that isn't dependent on your circumstances, a peace that comes from within, from knowing that you are finally living in alignment with who you are always meant to be. That is how you rebuild yourself. That is how you change your mind, your life, your world, not all at once, but one brave decision at a time. The fourth keynote dives into one of the most misunderstood truths in life. You can be deeply unhappy even when everything looks fine on the outside. You can have the job, the relationship, the car, the social media presence, and still feel empty inside. Why? Because happiness isn't a performance. It's not something you construct to show others. It's something you create internally, day by day, by choosing what matters, by living in alignment with your truth, even when it's inconvenient, even when it means letting go of what's comfortable. Pushing yourself to be happy doesn't mean faking a smile. It doesn't mean pretending you're okay when you're not. It means refusing to surrender your entire emotional world to the weight of your circumstances. It means choosing to take responsibility for your inner state, regardless of how chaotic your outer life may be. Because the truth is, life will never be perfect. There will always be something missing, something broken, something unfair. If you wait for everything to be right before allowing yourself peace, you'll be waiting forever. Happiness isn't a destination, it's a mindset. It's not about achieving a list of goals and hoping they'll fill the void. It's about realizing the void never truly existed. It was created by a mind trained to focus on what's lacking. Most people spend their whole lives chasing more success, more validation, more love, more distraction. But what if real happiness comes not from adding more to your life, but from subtracting what doesn't belong? The noise, the pressure, the fear, the comparison, that's what it means to push yourself to be happy. It's not passive, it's active. You must push back against the thoughts that tell you you're not enough. You must push past the reflex to numb, to escape, to run. You must push through the layers of conditioning that told you happiness was something you earned, not something you could decide to claim. That push is internal. It's invisible, no one claps for you when you do it. But it is the most important work you will ever do. It begins with awareness. Pay attention to your inner dialogue. Listen to how you speak to yourself in silence. Most people don't even realize they've been mentally abusing themselves for years, repeating toxic phrases like "I'll never be enough," "Why does this always happen to me?" or "Maybe I'm just broken." These thoughts are not facts. They're echoes from an untrained mind, and just as they were learned, they can be unlearned. But only if you're willing to challenge them. Choose one better thought today. Just one, instead of "I can't." Say "I'm learning." Instead of "nothing ever works out," say "this is temporary." These micro-shifts practiced over time rewire the emotional foundation of your life. Because your thoughts shape your focus shapes your emotions, and your emotions shape your experience of reality. It's not magic, it's neuroscience. The human mind is plastic. It changes when you challenge it with consistency and intention. But don't wait until you feel ready. Happiness doesn't come to those who wait. It comes to those who act. Those who say, "I may not have control over everything, but I will control what I feed my mind." Those who wake up and choose gratitude before the day gives them a reason. Those who show up with kindness even when the world is bitter. Those who choose silence over drama, growth over ego, and discipline over excuses. It won't be easy. The world around you will tempt you to fall back into old patterns. People will not understand your peace. Some may even resent it, but that's not your concern. Your job is not to convince the world you're happy. Your job is to actually be happy, even if no one applauds you for it. Even if you're doing it quietly, alone, on days when the weight feels unbearable. Especially on those days, that's where the power lies, not in pretending life isn't hard, but in choosing joy anyway, choosing presence anyway, choosing to breathe deeply, to anchor yourself in what's real, to say, "I don't need to fix everything before I feel peace." That's not delusion. That's strength. That's what it means to rebuild from within. Push yourself to be happy. Not someday, not when everything changes, but now, in the mess, in the uncertainty, in the brokenness. Because when you realize happiness is something you carry, not something you chase, everything begins to change. You no longer depend on the world to give you peace. You bring peace into the world, and that's a life worth living. The fifth keynote is about a truth most people ignore until it's too late. Pain is not your enemy, avoiding it is. The avoidance of pain is what keeps you stuck. The denial of discomfort, the rejection of hard conversations, the refusal to confront your truth, this is what creates long-term suffering. Growth doesn't come from comfort. Peace doesn't come from pretending. Healing doesn't come from silence. Every major breakthrough in your life will come wrapped in some form of pain. And if you're not willing to sit with that pain, to understand it, to move through it, you'll never get to the other side. We live in a culture obsessed with quick fixes. We want shortcuts, hacks, and distraction. We scroll to forget. We overwork to avoid. We attach ourselves to toxic relationships, not out of love, but because chaos is familiar and familiarity feels safer than change. But what if the pain you're avoiding is the very path to the freedom you crave? Pushing yourself to be happy when life is hard doesn't mean ignoring your pain. It means being brave enough to walk through it with open eyes. It means realizing that healing is not linear. Some days you'll feel strong. Other days you'll collapse under the weight of your own thoughts. But both are part of the process. The key is not to judge your emotions, but to allow them. Feel everything and keep going anyway, because when you avoid your pain, it doesn't disappear. It just waits. It waits until your guard is down. It waits until you're alone. It waits until you can no longer pretend, and then it explodes. That's why so many people break down, seemingly out of nowhere. It wasn't out of nowhere. It was the result of years of emotional avoidance, unresolved memories, bottled up trauma. You don't heal by suppressing the truth. You heal by facing it, you sit with it, you let it teach you, and then only then can you let it go. Real happiness is forged in fire. It's not fragile. It doesn't depend on everything being perfect. It's the kind of peace that comes after you've been broken, rebuilt, and reborn. It's a deeper kind of joy, the kind that says, I've seen darkness, and I choose light anyway. That choice is your power. But you can't make that choice unless you stop running from yourself. Sit in your silence. Listen to your pain. Ask it what it's trying to teach you. Because every painful moment holds a hidden message. The betrayal taught you boundaries. The loss taught you presence. The heartbreak taught you self-worth. The failure taught you resilience. These weren't punishments. They were lessons. They were invitations to go deeper into who you really are. You are not meant to stay the same. You are meant to evolve. But evolution requires shedding old versions of yourself. It requires outgrowing old patterns. And yes, it requires pain. But on the other side of that pain is clarity. On the other side is a version of you that is stronger, wiser, and more grounded. A version of you who doesn't need external approval to feel whole. A version of you who can sit in silence and feel peace, not panic. But to get there, you must stop numbing yourself. You must stop pretending you're okay when you're not. You must stop shaming yourself for feeling broken. You are human. You are allowed to break. You are allowed to feel lost. What matters is that you keep moving forward, not perfectly, but intentionally. Push yourself to walk through the pain. Push yourself to face the parts of yourself you've buried. Push yourself to speak the truth you've been too afraid to say. That's how you heal. That's how you grow. That's how you rebuild a life of depth and meaning. And when you do, when you've walked through the fire and come out the other side, you'll discover a peace that cannot be shaken. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. Not because the pain disappeared, but because it no longer controls you. That is true happiness. That is real freedom. And it all begins with the courage to face what hurts. The sixth keynote is about understanding this life-altering truth. No one is coming to save you. There will be no perfect moment, no miracle breakthrough, no sudden rescue. And while that might sound like a harsh reality, it's actually one of the most empowering truths you can ever embrace. Because once you fully accept that your life is entirely in your hands, you begin to tap into your real power. You stop waiting. You stop hoping someone else will fix things for you. And you start doing the work, the real work of rebuilding your life, brick by brick. There's a silent lie we're sold, often without realizing it, that someone or something out there, a relationship, a mentor, a job, an opportunity, a moment of luck will finally make it all better. That when the conditions are just right, we'll finally be okay. But life doesn't work like that. Life rewards action, not passivity. Life gives more to those who take responsibility than those who wait to be rescued. You must be your own rescue. You must become the person you needed when you were younger. You must look at the broken pieces of your life and realize that, although you didn't break them, it's still your job to rebuild. That's not unfair, it's freedom, because waiting makes you powerless. Taking control makes you unstoppable. You have to train yourself to stop relying on external motivation. No one will consistently wake you up early. No one will force you to heal. No one will drag you away from toxic habits. And no one will stop you from wasting your life except you. You either rise now or you stay stuck. That's the choice, and the only thing standing between you and the life you want is the belief that you're not ready. You are. You've always been. Push yourself to be the hero of your own story. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be loud. It just has to be real. Waking up one day and deciding, I'm not going to live like this anymore. That's enough. Starting small, holding yourself accountable, learning to say no. Learning to say yes to the right things. These are the quiet revolutions that rebuild lives. And yes, the world can be brutal. People will disappoint you. Life will throw things at you that you never asked for. But even in the chaos, even in the pain, you still have a say. You still get to choose who you become. You still get to respond with strength. And every time you respond from that place, you build a stronger version of yourself. There will be days when you feel like giving up. Days when the weight of it all feels too much. But those are the days that matter most. Those are the days where you prove to yourself that you can show up even when you're broken. That you can move even when it hurts, that you can be kind to yourself even in the mess. Those are the moments that shape you. Don't wait for inspiration to strike. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for some magical shift. Start now, start when it's messy, start when it's hard, start when your heart is heavy. That's when it counts. Anyone can move when it's easy. True strength is built in the struggle, and here's the secret. The more you push yourself to take control, the more powerful you feel. Not because life suddenly becomes easier, but because you're no longer hiding. You're no longer pretending that someone else holds the key. You realize that the key was in your hands all along. That's how you rebuild yourself. Not through miracles, but through movement. Not by waiting, but by choosing. And when you realize that when you fully step into the truth, that no one is coming to save you, you stop looking outside and start looking within. And what you'll find there is the most resilient, capable, powerful version of you that's been waiting to be unleashed. So stop waiting, push yourself to rise, push yourself to act, push yourself to live. Because no one can do it for you, but the good news, you don't need them to. You are enough, you are ready, now move.